Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Earlier this afternoon, uniformed officers from the 7th Precinct were on patrol in a marked NYPD vehicle when an individual walking on foot in their vicinity suddenly and without provocation produced a gun and opened fire in broad daylight. At least one round hit the driver's side window of the vehicle, smashing the glass. The officer driving the vehicle sustained an injury to his arm. He was taken to an area hospital and is currently being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. We're so grateful that he's going to be okay. Mr. Mayor?
First of all, we want to really have our hearts go out to Detective Burma and to Officer Beckford. And what also is interesting is at the hospital today, Officer Detective Burma's dad was there. He's a retired cop. Over and over again, we are in these hospital rooms and we're seeing the family members and the parents who are retired cops. If nothing is clearer, that there is a generation of families that are the good guys, and we're finding ourselves fighting against the bad guys. And more, we need every arm of the criminal justice system to participate in this fight. And we feel as though it's not. And today, out of all the other decisions, the Supreme Court hands down the decision that basically states our job is going to get harder. Our job is going to get harder. Too many guns on our street with too many bad people returning to our streets to do bad things to innocent people. This person who came out the building had no regard for any of the innocent people in this community. And then after the shooting, to watch those heroic officers jump out of the car and not run away from the violence, but they ran towards the violence. I had to really think about that. That's the uniqueness of the men and women who have made up their mind they're not going to surrender our streets to violence. Not going to surrender our streets to violence. We thank God these officers will be going home tonight, and we're going to do everything possible to find the person who's guilty of this shooting and continue our pursuit to rid our streets of guns. That is our calling and that is our job. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Assistant Chief Joe Kenny. I'm from the Detective Bureau. Please keep in mind the information that I'm about to give you is preliminary, as this incident has just taken place. As the Commissioner stated, at approximately 4:30, uniformed neighborhood coordination officers from the 73rd Precinct were on patrol in a marked New York City Police Department vehicle, which was traveling westbound on Pitkin Avenue as it reached the intersection of Legion. Suddenly, shots rang out. At this time, we believe a shooter was attempting to strike a white vehicle that was driving northbound on Legion. During the course of fire, our NYPD vehicle was struck and an officer was injured. The officers immediately exited their vehicle and pursued the gunman southbound on Legion. The shooter ducked into a nearby courtyard where the officers lost sight of him. We have established a large frozen zone around this area. We have recovered a firearm from this area in the rear of 50 Legion. We have brought in extensive resources to conduct a search for this perpetrator. This remains ongoing at this time. Anyone with information is asked to please call 1-800-577-TIPS. And remember, all these calls are kept confidential. Now I'd like to pass it to the President of the DEA, Paul DiGiacomo.
Thank you. Yesterday, we had a detective who almost lost his life when a perpetrator tried to rip his firearm from his waist. Today, we have a detective and a police officer who were fired upon for just sitting in their radio cars. I've been calling on the governor for 2 years now to appoint a special firearms prosecutor. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, when crack was at epidemic levels, the governor appointed a special narcotics prosecutor. We need a special firearms prosecutor to precisionally prosecute firearm-related crimes. And to the person who is responsible for this action today, I promise you, New York City detectives will track you down and will bring you to justice. Thank you.
You know, we're in a crisis now. This crisis did not start this summer. This crisis started a number of years ago. And you see here, City Hall, our agency, the unions, the people on the street while we were walking to these microphones thanking us for what we do. We are all together realizing there's a crisis. Well, we need the City Council, the Assembly, and the Senate, and the Governor's office to realize we're in a crisis and give us the tools and the support that we need to do the job. Change and reform the laws that they took away from us. We're approaching the summer. We want it to be a peaceful one. I think it can be if we all work together in government like our agency, union, and the people are doing.
We'll take a couple of questions. Roger?
Yeah, Chief, I'm a little confused about what happened. They were shooting at a white car, and
It appears that a gentleman is standing in front of 17 Legion. He discharges a firearm northbound on Legion toward Pitkin Avenue at a white vehicle. There's a picture of the firearm right here. All right, as he's firing at the white car, the NYPD marked car pulls into the intersection where it is struck in the front driver's side window, which injures our officer.
And the officer was sitting on the right side.
Officer was driving the vehicle at the time, was sitting on the left side.
Josh Heiniger?
Just to clarify, the officer was injured by the glass that shattered, we think, or was it a bullet fragment?
Still being determined this time at the hospital.
Any other questions? Adam?
There's a report of a shooting on Mother Gaston Boulevard not far from here. Any indication that this likely connected to?
We'll certainly investigate that possibility, but at this time, no.
Any other questions?
Only the officer was one injured, right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, only the officer was injured, not the detective.
The other way around. The detective.
The detective.
And he was,
A detective was working with a police
and
officer.
he was driving.
Yes.
And he'll be going home tonight?
Once again, the hospital will make that determination.
You have post?
Can you tell us anything about the firearm?
As of right now, it appears to be a 9mm Taurus firearm, was recovered in the rear of 50 Legion, right where the perpetrator was running.
Last question, Josh?
I mean, it sounds like, I just want to make it clear, these officers were unintended targets or innocent bystanders in the shooting. We've been covering all these innocent bystander incidents all for the last several months. I mean, does anyone want to comment on the fact that New York City police officers just drove into a battle without even realizing it was happening? It's just astonishing that that's where we are.
I think I don't disagree that it's an outrage and it's unacceptable, but it goes to show that our officers are out there and they're engaging and they're in these communities to try to stop this violence, and we won't stop.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Carlos, do you have the names? He referenced the names of the officers.